Welcome to the Hudson Board of Trade. It is earnings season, and I've got a bunch on the board today, so let's not wait. First off, I've got the banks. C is Citigroup. It's trading about $70. The straddles were $2.50. The break even for the straddle is $67.5 at $72.5. If you think Citi is going to stay around $70 inside this range, you want to sell it. If you think Citi could move outside of this range, you would want to buy it. Goldman Sachs is our next stock. It's trading $205. The straddle for Friday is worth $7. The break even on a $7 straddle is $1.98 on the downside and $2.12 on the upside. If you think Goldman Sachs is going to stay inside this range, you'd want to sell that straddle. If you think it could move outside the range, you could buy that straddle. Charles Schwab is our next stock. It's currently trading around 38. The straddle's worth $1.50. The break evens are 36.5 on the downside and 39.5 on the upside. These are all Friday straddles, and they all expire on Friday. So if you think it's going to stay inside this 36.5 and 39.5 range, you want to sell the straddle. If you think it can move outside that range, you want to buy the straddle. JP Morgan is our next stock. It's trading 116. The straddle is worth $3.25. The break evens are 112.75 on the downside and 19.25 on the upside. So if you think it's going to stay within inside this range, you want to sell it. If you think it can move outside this range, you want to buy it. Wells Fargo is currently trading $49. The straddle is worth $1.50. The break evens are 47.5 on the downside and 50.5 on the upside. If it's going to stay inside this range, you'd want to sell it. If it can move outside this range, you'd want to buy it. American Express is our next stock. It's currently trading $136. The straddle is worth $4, so our break-in is 132 on the downside and 140 on the upside. If it's going to stay inside there, you'd want to sell it. If it's going to move outside of there, you'd want to buy it. E-Trade is our next stock. It's trading $39, and the straddle's worth $2. The break-evens are going to be $37 and $41, right? So if E-Trade's going to stay between $37 and $41, you want to sell it by Friday. If it's going to move outside that range by Friday because of earnings, you'd want to buy it. Now we're looking at tech. I've got two tech companies, Netflix and IBM this week. Netflix is trading $285 and the straddles for Friday is worth $14. The break evens are going to be $271 and $299. So if you think earnings are going to move it outside of this range, you'd want to buy it. If you think earnings are going to be nothing and it's going to stay inside this range, you'd want to sell it. IBM currently trading $142. The straddle is worth $6.50. The break evens would be 135.5 on the downside and 148.5 on the upside. If you think it's going to stay inside this range, you'd want to sell IBM straddle. If you think it can move outside of this range, you would want to buy the IBM straddle for Friday. And the other stocks that I'm looking at this week, we have Johnson & Johnson currently trading $130. The straddles were $2.50. On the downside, that makes the break even $127.5. On the upside, it makes it $132.5. If Johnson & Johnson's going to stay inside these numbers, you'd want to sell the straddle. If you think it can move outside of these numbers because of earnings, you'd want to buy the straddle. CSX trading $68.5. The straddle's worth $3.50. The break evens would be 65 on the downside and 72 on the upside. If you think CSX on earnings is going to stay inside this, you'd want to sell the straddle. If you think it can move below 65 or above 72, you'd want to buy the straddle. Union Pacific is a $160 stock. The straddle for Friday is $6.75. The break evens would be 153.25 on the downside and 166.75 on the upside. So if it's going to stay inside there, Union Pacific, you'd want to sell that straddle. If you think it can move outside of this straddle, you'd want to buy it. And Coke is our final stock. It's trading $53. Excuse me. The straddle is $1.75. The break evens would be 51.25 on the downside and 54.75 on the upside. Again, if you think Coke is going to stay inside this range, you would want to sell the straddle. If you think Coke could go below 51.25 or above 54.75 because of earnings, you would want to buy this straddle. This is just one example of a strategy that you guys can learn to trade. And if you're interested in learning how to trade like this and you want to learn more, please be a member of the Hudson Board of Trade. Please watch my videos on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thumbs up my videos. Thank you very much.